De-escalation is imminent. Today we'll break it all down for you. There's a lot of news that starts to give us a new signal into the markets. I do want to thank our sponsor today, and that is iTrust Capital, where you can get into your own crypto IRA, buy and sell crypto, gold, silver. All of that is available in a single platform. Very easy to set up. Handful of projects, of course, you guys can jump into to secure those in your IRA, and you get a $100 funding reward just to get started. So if you haven't made that tax benefit part of your portfolio, go out and set up your own IRA. Let's start off with a clip of Trump talking about them wanting to make a deal. Take a look.
They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal too. We're going to get together today by probably phone, because it's very hard to find a country. It's very hard for them to get out, I guess. But we'll at some point very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
So what you hear from Trump right there, one, of course, is the 5-day component. That, of course, could mean the negotiations are underway. That, I think, is still the issue here. And I understand, yes, there's a lot of other people saying that the negotiations aren't happening. If you look at this tweet right here, what just happened, this is the whipsaw effect that it's happening, that it is having on the U.S. markets. Trump posted the U.S. and Iran are in productive talks. Markets exploded instantly. You saw the SPX up, you saw NASDAQ up, Bitcoin up. And then, of course, you saw Iran, who came out behind this and said, no, we're not doing that. And then, of course, the market responded. So Iran, and many of you would say, well, that's because, you know, Trump's crazy and this isn't happening. But in reality, maybe the fact is that both sides are trying to keep the talks open by still showing power. So that's why the threat of Trump coming in, that's why Iran responding with saying, hey, there was no negotiation. All of that could be playing into this right now. If you look at this, here is, of course, the breakdown of who it could be that is negotiating. After Israel claims that the U.S. was negotiating with Iran's parliament speaker, this, of course, it appears that Trump and Israel may be manufacturing this claim in order to back Trump out of the threat to attack the infrastructure, the power grids, which is what the original initiation was on Friday. Remember that? It was a 48-hour timeline. That, of course, Trump backed off of that, and now that's where we are today. If you look at the probability of a ceasefire, here's the March 31st range, and if you look at it right here, I'll go to the weekly, you'll notice that it starts climbing. So are we seeing a potential? If you go to April 15th, and we'll go to the chart or the graph here on that, also starting to climb a little bit more aggressively. And then on to April 30th graph, also climbing right here on the 1 week up to over 50%. So the probability, maybe there is something brewing in terms of some negotiation, at least in a de-escalation side of things. And this could be playing out quickly into the markets. A lot of people, I think, are right now still, though, very, very gun shy. Here's Mohamed El-Erian. He talks about a current pre-market price action marked by a broad-based decline in assets. We started to show you that right there. 6 and 8% drops in gold and silver. That's something that's huge. And this is reflecting something that a lot of people did not anticipate, and that is flights to cash. That has become the safe haven here. So how does this play out for the market going forward? He goes in and says the next 5 days really matter. Take a look.
It's an important turnaround, Joe, because we were seeing flight to cash as the only safe haven, and that was contracting markets in a significant manner. The big question for me right now is not only do these talks continue constructively, but can you get Israel to buy in as well? Because there are 3 warring parties in this war. So there's a lot of uncertainty still, but it's much better for markets than what it looked like just 10 minutes ago. If the U.S. can force objectives, because right now the U.S. is the only one that can declare victory. The other 2 cannot declare victory. So if the U.S. can impose its will on the other 2, then we have an interruption into something that went from simply disruptions to structural damage that takes years to fix.
All right, so from disruption to infrastructural damage, takes years to fix. I agree with that. If you look at this tweet right here, this may give you a little bit more understanding. While there will be much more volatility, it appears we are on step 9 and 10 of the playbook. And I think you guys have followed this enough. We've mentioned it many times. Kobayashi did a whole playbook around this, the conflict playbook. And if you go all the way down, let me scan real quickly down to 9 and 10, which is the deal and the narrative framing. Is Trump in that phase right now where there's a deal possibly underway? The narrative framing has been very clear. And then, of course, number 10 is the violent repricing and political victory lap. That is where we could be right now. And I kind of agree with that based at least on what we're seeing so far. So this is where reframing kind of plays into this and how Besant is responding to this. And what he's talking about is the inflationary impact of this war, and that we're going to have higher prices for, a little bit of time, 50 days. And he's saying in relationship to 50 years of no Iranian nukes. That's the narrative repricing. That's the narrative that's being painted around that. And then you've got Fred, he kind of hits on, we officially upgraded from transitory inflation to strategic inflation. Nice, bold rebrand there. Very interesting right now. So when you look at a few other things, and that is de-escalation potentials here, the UK comes in, says, hey, you should de-escalate. Then you have China coming in, urges de-escalation as Hormuz crisis deepens. Then you have right here Israel that says, is de-escalation even possible? So it's a continuation of the push from Israel to keep the U.S. in this war. All right, so let me lead into a clip here, because I know many people would say, Paul, you're talking about war and then you're talking about taking advantage of it. That's not the case here. We're a market channel and we understand all of this is bad. But these are geopolitical and macro impacts, no matter what way you look at it. And how you play this is going to be important, and understanding where timing is going to play into this is very key. So Tom Lee goes into that very exact moment, and he talks about when timing may play into this from a market perspective. Take a look.
You're not changing that 7,700?
We're not. One, I think 7,700 was a conservative estimate to start because markets have been steadily repricing on a PE basis, and we're only assuming modest PE expansion this year to 7,700. And as much as the war is creating obviously a huge short-term setback and a lot of uncertainty, including effects on monetary policy, ultimately wars are going to be good for the U.S. economy and the U.S. stock market. So I think as we get towards the end of the year, the market stops thinking less about the crisis element of this and more on the opportunity.
I know when things seem the worst is often when the market does what you least expect it to do, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think right now, if we asked any investor, they can list all the reasons why they're worried and what could go wrong. And that's what gets priced in very quickly. But we have to know that that's counterbalanced with opportunities have always emerged. I mean, when we look at the last 8 major war events, the market was always bottoming very early into the conflict.
So bottoming early into the conflict, if he is right, timing plays into this latter this year, that would be a factor going into these markets. So what are you looking for? You want to own growth stocks or growth opportunities, and he breaks that down. Take a look.
Historically, going back 100 or whatever years, the S&P tends to fall about 15% once on average in a midterm election year. We're only down 5. That seems complacent to me.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think we have to look at global stocks. Last year, more money was made owning emerging markets, owning gold over stocks. Emerging markets have corrected a lot more than the S&P has because the world is worried about growth. And as you worry about growth, you want to own the growth index, which is the S&P 500.
And if you're worried about growth, you have to look at clarity, and clarity is going to be the growth element for crypto. If you consider what's happening right now in DC, crypto and the bank reps head to Capitol Hill. We are seeing some movement. Here's a piece right here by Crypto in America. They hit on it right here. Will be heading to Capitol Hill this week to review the product long awaited by compromise over whether crypto firms should be allowed to pay customers. Now, we think, and this is what I've kind of banked on for quite some time, is that this is most likely going to be a ban on idle balances, passive yield. So if that is the case, and I think the banks have continued to push back from it, but if that is the case, I think that Coinbase and the rest of the markets, they're going to walk away from that and say it's a win. And I think many people are just saying, we're done fighting. We want to get this on its way. There's too many other opportunities here to kind of get this market into the next layer. And if it does come together, we are in the right place at the right time because of, again, timing in the market. All right, so when you look at, we get past this war in a good way and everybody's out of it, markets are moving again. The problem is that you've got economic potential impacts that are real. And one of the biggest ones is what we're seeing right now with ICE. And this, of course, is Trump deploying ICE at U.S. airports. I want to play a clip from Tom Homan where he kind of breaks down the narrative here. Take a look.
Or will ICE officers also be doing immigration enforcement while they are at the airports?
We do immigration enforcement at airports all the time. So is that going to change? It's not going to change.
All right, so he's not necessarily being hawkish there. I think he's just responding to Dana on that. But if you look at what's happening in the airports, I mean, that is the TSA lines, guys. These are getting out of control. I ended up canceling flights because of this. And it looks as though we're going to start to see this in a lot more airports. This is where we are right now. This is CNN publishing it, 13 airports. This, to my knowledge, has already expanded beyond 13. But you've got a lot of major hubs in there, including Atlanta, Houston in there, New York, obviously, Philly, Phoenix, and also Newark. So this is a bad situation because it's going to put more pressure on Republicans. It's going to put more pressure on the economy because if we see the air travel slow down in the United States, that's a big issue economically, and it does start to put some more pressure, I think, on how this plays out in the midterms. Now, if you look at the midterms, which party is going to win the Senate right now? Republicans have slipped up again in terms of taking the lead at around 53%. If they get out of this war, they may come back to a little bit more of a control issue, but I think the ICE situation will have to be solved for them to get into a position where they can fight in the midterms where they potentially have a chance. This is all playing into it right now. So you've got clarity, you've got the Iranian war, and you've got the issues that are happening now with TSA, and also just in general, getting bills through DC, which is the biggest problem. And those are the biggest threats also, even on just getting clarity done. Because remember, even though they come to an agreement, doesn't mean that we have a bill. So all of that has to happen. It's very sensitive. A lot of things could still break. So we're going to be covering this. There's a very busy week this week, so stick around. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.